because when we look, you can see families were more than willing to go to the box office to support something like the Minecraft movie, while Rachel Zegler's Snow White continues to plunge. Minecraft in the United States in one weekend made more money than Snow White has made globally after 3 weekends. That's how bad it is right now.
There's no way that Snow White is going to recover.
She's literally the only person there. And do you not understand how humiliating this is? Meanwhile, the experience at Minecraft goes something like this.
Welcome back. Things just got serious. Disney's once untouchable image has taken a brutal hit, all thanks to the Snow White 2025 disaster. The situation is so disastrous, it actually makes Dragon Ball Evolution look like a cinematic masterpiece by comparison. Fans, critics, and industry insiders alike are all zeroing in on two prime suspects: the outspoken Rachel Zegler, who can't seem to stop taking shots at the beloved original, and Bob Iger, whose puzzling leadership choices have steered the Disney empire straight into chaos. Early reports reveal.
And of course, this weekend, Minecraft came out, which has absolutely dominated the box office, done significantly better than analysts even projected. And now we're finding out that Snow White has officially crossed $160 million.
So it got destroyed at the box office. Here's the box office numbers. The Minecraft movie made $60 million on Saturday. Snow White made $2 million.
Feel that the film's messy script, skyrocketing budget, and head-scratching modern twists have been such a disaster that even the most loyal Disney supporters are turning their backs. While mainstream outlets scramble to offer weak justifications, the reality is crystal clear. This catastrophe is shaping up to be one of the biggest cinematic blunders of the decade. But before we dive into Bob Iger, the not-so-genius executive who signed off on this doomed project, let's first talk about Rachel Zegler, the leading actress who seems determined to alienate the very audience she was meant to charm. Before signing on to this project, many believed she had real potential, a solid voice, some star power from previous roles, and a career on the rise. But all of that went up in smoke the moment she chose to publicly bash the original Snow White, calling it outdated, problematic, and desperately in need of a total overhaul. It's like walking into a classic car show and telling the proud owners their prized vintage rides belong in the junkyard. Unsurprisingly, Disney fans were outraged, sparking hashtags, petitions, and viral tirades
Turned over $157 million while earning another $144 million internationally. The Minecraft video game was introduced in 2011 and sold more than 300 million copies. So it actually has a fan base, user base, people that care about it. In theory, Snow White should as well. Snow White's the movie that made Disney, the studio. They should have been more cautious and careful with their own IP. It's a $1 billion IP. The Disney Snow White, faithfully adapted, would have made $1 billion.
Whether she even grasped the heart and soul of the cherished 1937 masterpiece. But Zegler didn't stop at trashing the original film. Behind the scenes, whispers describe her as a total nightmare on set, snarky to the point of disrespect, constantly clashing with seasoned crew members, and making demands that seemed completely at odds with Disney's family-friendly vibe. Some insiders even joked she behaved more like an aggressive CEO than the star of the movie, stepping on the toes of Disney veterans who've been part of the magic for years. Worst of all, every time she addressed the growing backlash, instead of calming things down, she only made it worse. Her fiery remarks about how modern audiences supposedly need a total rewrite of the story just kept pouring gasoline on an already raging fire.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
Probably guess how that played out. Even those who were open to the idea of modernizing a few outdated parts were completely put off by her smug attitude. If there were ever a manual on how to drive away an entire fan base at lightning speed, Rachel Zegler's photo would be Insider leaks reveal that the board called an emergency meeting in response to the Snow White disaster. and the atmosphere was so charged, you'd think they were handling a national crisis. Their message to Iger couldn't have been clearer or harsher. Either he agrees to exit a year ahead of schedule in 2025, or he slashes costs across the board in a desperate bid to rescue Disney's crumbling reputation. One of the loudest criticisms aimed at Iger is his seeming failure to gauge public sentiment. Disney, once celebrated for its meticulously crafted, family-friendly entertainment that appealed to all ages, has, under Iger's leadership, churned out a string of
literally the only person there. And do you not understand how humiliating this is?
live-action remakes like The Lion King, Mulan, Pinocchio, and now Snow White, each stirring more division than the last. Defenders claim it's just Disney evolving with the times, but skeptics argue these remakes strip away the original magic and heart that made Disney a beloved icon worldwide. Add Rachel Zegler's public meltdown into the mix, and the situation has become so volatile that even Disney insiders are whispering it might be time for Iger to grab his golden parachute and bow out gracefully. Making matters worse, skyrocketing production costs paired with underwhelming box office performances have taken a toll on Disney's stock.
You had the marketing material not being all that good. A lot of advertisements were really mediocre for this film, and to top it off, they made tons of changes and they strayed away from the source material, which upset a lot of fans.
A surefire way to get those deep-pocketed board members fuming. While diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, may sound like the ultimate corporate ideal, within Disney's walls, it's turned into a powder keg of internal conflict. Snow White 2025 made a bold push for modern representation, but many critics argue it was executed so clumsily that it came across more as pandering than genuine effort. With each new live-action remake, Disney has consistently waved the DEI flag, often pushing progressive.
Whereas the Snow White model is the message ad infinitum, shoved directly up your ass, and most importantly, in the most insufferable possible way, like screamed at you by an ugly woman for 2 hours.
Narratives that left longtime fans feeling sidelined or even insulted. When you throw in Zegler's controversial remarks about the original Snow White being a relic from a bygone age, you've got a perfect storm of outrage and backlash. As if things weren't bad enough, there's been open infighting at the corporate level. Allegedly, half of the board believes continuing with the DEI-driven marketing push is a surefire way to deepen Disney's financial woes, using Snow White's disastrous reception as evidence. The other half, however, argues that Disney has a social responsibility to challenge boundaries. According to rumors, there have been shouting matches, a flurry of desperate emails, and last-minute emergency meetings in an attempt to...
And so let's see how they fared against each other. The Minecraft movie breaks box office record with $300 million global opening, while woke Snow White slips again. Minecraft movie was a big winner, debut weekend, $300 million.
Find a unified strategy, but the Snow White disaster has laid bare a painful truth. Lip service to diversity and half-baked inclusivity can do more harm than good if they aren't handled creatively and with respect for the original material. Fans aren't naive. They can distinguish between genuine representation and forced tactics. Right now, this forced approach is costing Disney millions and damaging a brand that once seemed
encouraging to see a movie that decided to do the opposite of Snow White, which is, according to all available reviews, including from the people that I trust the very most on this platform, it is non-political. The Minecraft movie does not try to beat you and box you about the ears with the message. It is just silly fun for kids, which is what a kids movie should be.
Invincible. If you thought Snow White was the only headache, think again. The next disaster might be just around the corner, and it's tied to a tangled remake reportedly carrying a staggering $230 million budget before even factoring in marketing costs. Rumors suggest...
Okay, so this...
And the cops had to escort the rowdy teenagers out. The Minecraft movie is doing something magical. It's creating a live audience reaction event where people are going to just be part of something to interact with the movie itself. The kind of thing that really creates like a kinetic movement.
Bob Iger had high hopes for this project, envisioning it as another modern twist on a classic animated favorite. It was set to include diverse casting, new pronoun usage, and significant plot changes that could have turned Rapunzel into someone barely recognizable. However, with the board still reeling from the Snow White debacle, they hit the brakes hard, reportedly telling Iger, "Either you scrap this, or we'll scrap your final year as CEO." And honestly, it seems like they should have made that call much sooner.
You can see here the Minecraft movie is 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, 87% audience score. That's kind of all that matters because these people pay the bills, these people don't.
Let's not overlook the rest of Disney's empire, which is now struggling under the weight of too many half-baked ideas. Marvel, once a surefire cash cow, has been stumbling with disappointing Phase 4 releases. Now, all eyes are on Blade, a project that initially had fans excited, only for them to be left scratching their heads over constant script rewrites and rumors of major flaws. There's talk that the board might decide to scrap it altogether, seeing it as another potential disaster in the making. The cold logic is simple. If they can't guarantee a Marvel-level return, it's better to cut their losses before they sink even more millions into it. In times of crisis, bold moves are necessary, and Bob Iger is feeling the heat to fix the financial mess caused by countless reboots and expansions. Critics argue that this situation is a textbook case of corporate greed spiraling out of control. Disney took on more than it could handle with all these acquisitions, and now it's paying the price. Just when you think the drama couldn't possibly get worse, rumors surface about a potential FCC investigation into Disney's handling of...
This movie exists, by the way. You can't tell me Minecraft is the worst movie of 2025 when Snow White exists. That's right. Minecraft movies are going to make more in a weekend than Snow White's made in its entire theatrical run, and we know why.
DEI policies across its media platforms. The Federal Communications Commission usually focuses on broadcast standards, but insiders suggest that some shady behind-the-scenes deals may have crossed certain lines. While it's unclear whether this involves undisclosed political pressures, misled shareholders, or questionable content disclaimers, the mere possibility of an FCC crackdown is sending shockwaves through Disney's headquarters in Burbank. If the FCC finds enough
Teens in suits shouting lines, cheering, like it was a concert. Check out the energy, unreal. Disney Snow White is flopping hard. Why did Minecraft win? Because they stayed true to their actual audience. If Disney had made a faithful adaptation to the original Snow White, it would have made $1 billion.
In these allegations, Bob Iger could soon be called to explain why Disney's push for inclusivity appeared more like a shallow publicity stunt than a sincere effort at corporate responsibility. The mere hint of regulatory scrutiny would spell disaster for any company, but especially one like Disney, which is so tightly linked to children's entertainment. This controversy has snowballed into a perfect storm that could force Disney to face uncomfortable...
The reason why is partially because of Rachel Zegler, but also because of the entire garbage movie itself. We keep blaming Rachel Zegler, and she's an easy scapegoat. I think they're scapegoating her on purpose, but the entire movie was trash. All of Rachel Zegler didn't write Snow White. Right? Rachel Zegler didn't cast Snow White. The studio did. It's a Disney problem. Disney did these things.
Questions about its content strategy and corporate image. Let's be real, the combination of Bob Iger's questionable decisions and Rachel Zegler's unchecked comments has turned into a toxic mix, much like Mentos and soda. You'd think a CEO of Iger's caliber would have stepped in to rein in his lead actress the moment she began attacking Disney's core legacy, but instead, he let her continue unchecked. Some critics call this corporate hubris, thinking that any publicity is good as long as it generates buzz. That gamble? A major misfire. Instead of revitalizing the brand, it created a whirlwind of negative press, furious fans, and a significant dip in the company's stock price. Iger attempted to silence the critics by claiming that these remakes were all about progress and connecting with modern audiences. However, his credibility took a major hit the moment the disastrous reviews for Snow White started pouring in. At the same time, Zegler's public appearances turned into a goldmine for critics who couldn't get enough of how completely unaware she seemed of the backlash. It almost seemed like she was taking some twisted pride in antagonizing the fan base. Needless to say, this didn't sit well with anyone. While Disney used to be untouchable, able to bounce back from a flop here and there, it now finds itself in a unique crisis. You've got a lead actress openly mocking the fan base, and a CEO who appears to be completely out of touch. In an ironic twist, the Snow White scandal has turned into a spectacle of its own, generating memes, parody videos, and snarky reviews flooding social media, each one adding to the ridicule. Some users have even started referring to the film as Snowoke 2025, while others create elaborate side-by-side comparisons between the beloved 1937 classic and this new version, which many view as preachy and lifeless. Even content creators who don't typically cover Disney are jumping in, enjoying the spectacle of watching a massive company implode on itself. But behind all the laughs, there's an underlying sense of betrayal. Disney was once a symbol of dreams, wonder, and childlike magic. Now it's become a cautionary tale of how overreach, poor leadership, and out-of-touch stars can ruin even the most cherished stories. Rachel Zegler was supposed to be the bright new face that brought Snow White's magic to a new generation. Instead, she's become the poster child for how not to take on a legacy role. As for Iger, many believe he's ruined his once stellar reputation by ignoring warning signs that were flashing all along. Fans are now asking, where was Bob Iger when everything fell apart? Honestly, I think he's probably hiding out in one of those Disney caves, trying to avoid the onslaught of backlash.